knocked the ice off his pistol and turned around to take down 2 German soldiers. To stay alive, he had no choice but to keep running. The German troops were right behind him. A bullet tore off one of his toes. Blood immediately poured out. With no time to think, he forced himself to keep moving. Of the 12 men on the mission, he was the only one who hadn't been captured. If he was caught too, their secret operation would completely fail. The soldiers followed his trail of blood all the way to the shoreline, but there, they lost him. By then, Jan had already crossed over a mountain and escaped their pursuit. That night, he took off his shoes and painfully pulled a sock over his wounded foot. The Germans refused to give up the search. They launched flares into the sky, turning night into day. With enemy soldiers closing in, Jan had no choice but to keep moving. This time, he decided to take a huge risk. He would cross the freezing channel and swim to the other side. One officer touched the icy water and was convinced no one could survive it. But Jan had already made it across. Half frozen and barely conscious, he reached the opposite shore. A young couple found him and saved his life. The kind family took him in and gave him shelter. That evening, an officer reported that 11 of the 12 men had been captured, but the meticulous colonel disagreed. He believed the missing man was still alive. He ordered a thorough search of every household capable of providing medical care. The next morning, Jan set out once again. He wanted to find a way to rescue his comrades. Meanwhile, the colonel began conducting an experiment. He ordered Jan's captured teammates into the freezing water. By measuring how long they could endure it, he hoped to determine whether the missing man could have survived the crossing. One after another, the prisoners failed the test. Neither could last more than a few moments. Finally, the colonel entered the water himself. The mission was too important. He refused to believe anyone had escaped him. Even he struggled to withstand the cold. Yet he still refused to accept that the 12th man was dead. That night, the 11 captured operatives were sentenced to death. Jan arrived at the home of a friend, recommended by the family who had rescued him. The woman who lived there was a hospital nurse. She told him what had happened to his teammates. Realizing there was little he could do, Jan changed his plan. He would escape to Sweden and then make his way to Britain. He found someone he could trust. They provided him with new shoes and arranged a boat to take him to another section of the Swedish coast. The story takes place during World War II. Jan and his teammates were British-trained resistance operatives. Their mission was to sabotage a German-controlled harbor in an operation known as Red Martin. Unfortunately, a problem with their contact caused the mission to fail. 11 men were captured. Only Jan escaped. The colonel still hadn't found the 12th man. At this point, he could only assume the fugitive had died in the freezing sea. After several days of traveling, Jan arrived at a German military camp. It was a route he couldn't avoid. Sometimes, the safest place is the most dangerous one. Unfortunately, Jan wasn't much of a skier. One careless mistake sent him crashing into a parked vehicle. As fate would have it, the colonel was stationed at that very camp. Jan kept his head down, avoiding eye contact with everyone. Then the colonel called out to him. Fortunately, the colonel didn't recognize him. Jan politely thanked him.